Yeah, progress is the thing we're chasing.
Yeah, and one of the things is that, I mean, you hear it all the time, and I don't disagree with it, but I disagree in the spirit that it's said, is that we're here to change the world. And for us, that just gets mixed up in our minds with we're here to progress the world towards something new and fresh and revitalized. But we think that means doing away with the past. And I think that reinvention means coming back to what we have lost. So that's where I would place. That's where I'd place us, Joey.
Kia ora koutou, welcome to Lunch on the Way. We're three guys doing theology over lunch, and I forget how the rest of it goes.
It's the end of the year, man.
You can do that, Joey. It's the end of the year, you know. It's like...
Welcome to our 50th episode.
Woohoo!
Wow.
This is our 50th episode. We've been doing this this is the end of season 3. Season 1 was a short one of only a few episodes because it was the end of the year. So we are 2 full years, 3 seasons in.
Wow. Hey, you want to hear something funny? You just forgot that, but I got in the car the other day with my old clothes on and to drop something off at the engineer, and I got down to the engineer and I thought, I forgot to put my boots on. I just had socks on. The guy says to me, I got out of the car. The guy says, oh, I forgot my boots. He said, even on the tips.
At least you're wearing your pants.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah, that was funny. There you go, Joey.
We've got some...
look at
someone
this.
open that up?
Berry and biscuit.
Berry and biscuit.
Look at that, man.
I know it's early in the morning, but...
Whoa.
Oh, right.
It's 50.
Oh, 50.
Okay.
It's 50, right. Okay, look at that.
This is a
Okay,
Bundaberg, lemon, lime, and bitters.
Do you know you can get Christmas ginger beer now? They put a bit of cinnamon in it.
I was going to say, what does that even mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Just open her up.
Open up.
I'll put it in the mic so people can listen.
Yeah.
50. Wow.
This is episode 50.
Okay, are we broadcasting now?
No. The second I did the intro horribly, we started recording.
We're on.
Yeah.
No, your whole story of
not wearing your pants No, wait, I was wearing my pants.
Well, the way you started that... The way you started
You're just throwing me under the bus. You know?
Here, I'll do that. You hold the mic. The way you started the way you started the story made me think that you don't normally have clothes on in the car. And I'm like, what is going on right now? But
Did I say, how did they move to clothes? I had no boots on.
Boots on. It's well, I think it's just
It did feel a bit
moment.
funny, though, because I did go into another shop, and they probably looked at me, and I said, I forgot my boots at home. Because it was wet, too, you know. So,
Feel free to grab some
We should
chocolate.
clink our glasses.
We should. Here we go. With the mic. Clink, clink. And then we'll get into some stats.
oh, yes, very good.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to...
Like and subscribe on YouTube.
And if you're listening to this on audio, don't forget to follow and rate.
We really appreciate your listening. All right, so I've got some stats. I know people who are listening are like, "Wow, how many downloads do you get, really, guys?" And I'm like,
haven't even heard these.
I'm not going to disclose the number of downloads, but what I will disclose is the top 5 episodes on both YouTube and the podcast platform that we use. If you had to guess,
Wait, is this your favorite episode? Is this your favorite episode? I wonder.
today,
You know, for our listeners, is it their favorite episode
I
that
don't.
came up? No. Okay.
I know what you mean. I'm like, what do you mean? Not this one? Okay.
No, you get it.
I get it. Okay. So here we go. Top 5 just for the podcast platform. Top
Okay.
5.
Okay.
Not YouTube. YouTube
Okay.
is its own thing at the moment. Number 5, Dr. Roshan Allpress, Christian Institutions, Revival and Renewal in Society,
Whoa.
Centuries of
Oh, he's at
Faithfulness.
5, so you're going to 1.
Oh, okay, you're
This is 5.
Okay.
So we did this one back in December of 2022. So this is like 5 or 6 or 7 episodes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's already still in the top 5. Number 4, the church in Aotearoa, New Zealand is in flux. Are you paying attention? That was our first ever upload. Is number 4 on the list.
Wow.
On the 17th of October, 2022. And then
22.
I know. And then we're going to inflate someone's ego for the next 2.
Yes.
Sam Burrows,
Hey.
number 3.
Congratulations, Sam.
Yeah, the metaverse and the meta crisis in education with our youth and what can be done about it. We did that one on the 4th of June, 2024. So that was not too long ago.
Okay.
And then number 2 for Sam Burrows is Atheist Christians and a Cultural Shift.
Wow.
That one was in 2023 in June.
Man.
So we had him a year apart, basically, and he's number 2 and number 3 still.
Congratulations, Sam.
Good job, Sam.
Wow.
We'll buy you a drink, mate.
Yep. Well, maybe.
Wish you were here.
Maybe.
Well, he might be back for Christmas. I don't know what his plans
he's back.
are. He's back?
He's back. I've seen him.
Oh, you
seen
have?
him?
Okay.
Yep.
Well, why isn't he here
He's
right
back.
now?
Sam, why weren't you here?
All right, and here's YouTube. YouTube's interesting. There are more views on YouTube than we got for podcast downloads on the app, only because a view is basically a click of longer than not 10 or 20 or whatever seconds, or less. So it's if someone clicks it, it counts as a view. So it's not the same as a download. I feel like a download has more substance to it because someone's going to have to listen to it.
Yep.
If they're in the car, for example, listening to it.
Yep.
So number 5, Roshan.
Hey,
Same one.
congratulations.
He's got number 5. Number 4, interesting. This one, the algorithm on YouTube like this one. Re-enchanting a secular imagination.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, when did we do
Nice.
That was early on. That was in the end of 22, season 1.
This is your clickbait titles.
I tried.
I think that's working.
I'm getting worse though. And then number 3, this is one I did not expect. You weren't in on this conversation, Jonathan.
Okay.
Dr. Claire Knowles Bible translations that shouldn't be read.
Really?
Go Claire.
Yeah, she's number 3 on YouTube.
Nice. Yes.
And then this was not on our podcast top 5, but it was on our YouTube top 5 as number 2, and it was our live show.
Oh,
really?
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's cool.
It took off on YouTube a lot more. I just had it in all caps. Live show, reinventing church, reforming for authenticity. John Mark Comer again.
Nice.
Yeah, and then number
Love you,
1
John Mark.
is. Oh, did I do number 1 for either of them?
Yeah.
What was number 1?
Sam.
No, sorry, that was
No.
number 2.
No, it was
Oh,
number 2.
okay.
Well, you
All right.
didn't do number 1.
Number 1 for both YouTube and the podcast
Really?
are the same.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Real Christianity, in quotes, John Mark Comer's critique of church, and the new martyrdom.
Ooh.
When did we do that one?
Yeah, I remember
That one was back in January. That was the first
Whoa.
episode of this season in January.
No way.
Oh, really?
That one on YouTube got 3x second place views,
Wow.
and on the podcasting platform was just slightly above Sam Burrows' Atheist Christians.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So there we go.
That's
so
awesome.
what am I learning from this as like an algorithmic kind of person? Need to put John Mark Comer in the title a bit more. Need to put Atheist Christians a bit more in there, and also Sam Burrows needs to come on more regularly.
He's got his own show now, hasn't he?
He does,
He's-
but he
yeah.
doesn't own it. It's who he works for owns
Oh,
it. So
right,
he's
okay.
he's not as free as you could be.
You
Like
can be
us.
yourself here, Sam.
You can be yourself
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, he was a bit too much of himself a few times, and I had to
Perfect.
cut out a few things.
That's saying a whole lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't put that up. We
Yeah.
are interdenominational
That's
here.
so funny.
All right, and then here's some other random stats. You want to know, if you had to guess, what percentage of our podcast is downloaded by people living in New Zealand? What would you say? The
80.
percentage? 80? Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm going to go with 80 as well.
All right.
Yep.
It's a bit
Yeah.
high.
You got a gender breakdown?
I don't.
Okay.
I wish.
Yeah.
68% of people who download this podcast are from New Zealand.
68.
68.
Oh, it's lower than I thought.
Okay.
And what percentage overall, globally,
Yeah, it's probably
are from Auckland?
Oh, from Auckland.
Oh.
I don't know.
56% of all downloads are from the city that we
Oh,
live
okay.
in.
Oh,
really?
okay.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
More than half are from here.
Wow.
All right, and then so the U.S. is 12%, Australia 10%, and Canada 5%.
Yeah.
So Australia too.
I thought Canada would be more.
Well, I thought Canada would be more as well, but
Yeah.
people must hate me.
They've forgotten about you.
Remind me,
Yeah.
but
Uncle Steve was there, though.
yeah.
Yes, he was. I
Hey,
saw.
Uncle
Did you see
Steve.
that post on
Yeah,
Facebook?
shout out to
yeah,
Uncle
Steve. My Uncle
Yeah.
Steven. He said
Oh,
he,
I saw that.
he reshared one of our clips that I posted on Facebook. Yeah.
Well,
He's-
the big
he
thing
sounds
is
like a
that
cool guy.
we've got one with Mark Sayers.
Yeah, we got Max.
Well,
that
February.
we
Are
can't-
allowed to
we
say
can't-
that?
He's
You're going to have to edit that out.
Kelly, his PA, emailed me yesterday.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
And-
so she says, give me some dates. So we'll sort it out after this.
Okay.
Good. All right, we'll sort it out. So
Yeah, Mark Sayers
it's
is
not
coming on.
confirmed, but we've got the person who's going to beat John Mark Comer in the clickbait.
I reckon.
All right,
I
in
reckon.
the stats,
I reckon.
and that's going to probably propel season 4 into a whole new
Yeah. And on
higher
season-
level, baby, higher
and we-
level.
And we have some other people that may
Yeah.
be coming on that I think people are going to want to listen to, right? Which we won't disclose.
No, we won't
There's
disclose that
people
yet,
Yeah.
but we're hoping to
Yeah.
line up a few number of guests
Yeah.
in the first 4 months
Yeah.
of next year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're going to hear less of us and more of other people,
Yep.
and some of us talking about
Well,
that anyway.
interacting, I think.
interacting.
Mm.
Okay, so 56% Auckland, 4% Sydney, 4% Christchurch, 2% Melbourne. So it's just like the 1% is like there's 50 cities,
Yeah.
of just 1%.
We're killing Auckland.
But number one, the number 1% city, which is I know who downloads these and listens to them consistently. Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island in Canada is number 5
Shout
in
out,
most
Mum.
downloaded city. No, my mom doesn't live there.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend who I
Who's
went to
it?
school with and who lives in
No
Prince Edward
way.
Island, and I'm sure it's him.
Oh,
No,
really?
That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny.
Well,
So
that's
cool.
a big reach, you know.
I won't say their last name, but Tyler. If you're listening, Tyler, shout out Tyler.
Tell
Edward
Tyler to
Island.
send in a topic and we'll
Prince
talk
Edward.
about it for him.
Yeah, if I don't hear
Tyler,
anything, then I'm
whatever
wrong.
you want to talk about,
Yeah.
send in
That's
something in
risky.
and we'll do it. Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Tyler knows what he's about.
Yeah.
Man.
But congratulations, guys. 3
Mm-hmm.
seasons, 50 episodes. It's not insignificant. We recorded 19 this year alone,
That's amazing.
which is just under 2 a week. One a week.
Wow.
Or, sorry, 1 every 2 weeks,
Oh, that's pretty good.
which is pretty good.
That's
We're
very
busy
good.
people. We actually had a string about a month and a half where we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then so we were pretty active at the start of the year, to be
Yep.
honest.
Yep.
Wow,
And
that's
then
pretty
kind of
good.
petered off.
Yep.
So let's just
We've
be
even done a
active again.
road trip in that time.
We did a road
Done
trip.
a
Yeah,
road
a couple
trip.
of weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
About a month ago, actually.
Yep.
it a month
Spoken
ago?
to some
Oh my
folks in the North Island,
Mhm.
which was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we're on the move, guys.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, so let's pivot.
We're on the way.
Yep.
Joey.
It's Christmas time. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho.
Ho, ho. Ho, ho.
Merry Christmas. I just can't wait for everything to stop, eh?
Yeah.
No, that's why I'm riding my bike. I
Yeah,
don't have to-
yeah.
I just, like I get out in the car and I'm doing a little bit of self-reflection here because I get
Okay.
quite wound up.
Yeah.
People cut me off and pull in, and then it's like there's a lot of aggro out there, and I'm thinking I just don't want to engage at it.
Yeah.
So
It's
riding my bike's like so cool. I just
So good.
it's cool.
Is it fast? Do you ride in the rain?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
But
Electric
planners.
bike.
Yeah, electric.
Well,
He's
somebody
not pedaling.
So one of my
Ah.
colleagues, he said to me, he said, "Electric bike." He says, "Would you do anything?" I thought it was rather insulting, actually. I said, "No, I actually get a bit of a sweat up.
A bit of a sweat
Tell
up.
him to move with the
Your heart
times.
rate goes to maybe
I
120.
can change it down to sport. I can do a tour. I can do an eco, or not have power at all. But I won't do the no power at all because it's quite hard.
Yeah, yeah.
So before we talk about Christmas broadly and specifically for a
Yeah.
second, and we'll just go wherever it goes. If you eat the chocolate, try not to eat it in the mic. I'm already hearing
Alright.
myself chew, and I'm sure the listener will not like that. All right. So Christmas. I don't want to ask really any broad questions like, what have you been reflecting on this Christmas? What does Christmas mean to
Yes.
you? Okay, think back to your childhood, or think back a little bit. What do you remember most fondly about Christmas growing up? And then we'll maybe get into like some of the theology and liturgy and stuff later.
Oh,
What's like when you think of Christmas and you're like you're as a child or in your teens, what comes to mind?
it was enchanting,
It was enchanting.
magic.
Yeah.
Because my mother used to tell these great big whopping stories.
Okay.
Well, she used to say Santa used to come through the fireplace, And I used to look at the fireplace, and we had what they had back in the 60s. They had these things called space heaters, space fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where you close the door, it was a little round glass.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to think, how's he getting out of there? So I go to bed thinking, then she'd say to us, oh, can you hear his truck coming down the road? It was all this sort of,
Classic.
and so, yeah, well, he drove a truck.
Santa drove a truck?
Yeah, well, my mother just make these great big stories up and come down the
She's
chimney
probably
and-
losing it with your dad, like just
Oh.
laughing right
Oh,
off.
right. Oh, she was just that sort of person. She just loved all that sort of stuff, Yeah, so, I mean, it was just the wonder of it,
Yeah.
And it seemed to take a long time to get when it was over, a long time to get there. Now, it doesn't take any time at all. As you get older, it's like, whoa, it's a guy here again.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're younger, you think, oh, my goodness, it's just so
It's
long.
amazing.
It's a neat.
You forget it too, and it's only when you start having kids that it kind of gets.
Well, all that magic's
revivified.
returning
Yeah.
because of little kids.
And you get 3 moments as your childhood, your kid's childhood, and now your grandchildren's childhood. It comes in 3 big waves.
Yeah.
And if you're old enough, your great grandchildren, but you're not as involved as being
Yeah.
a grandparent. Jonathan, how about you? What comes? What do you think about?
I
back
mean,
in the day?
all that stuff. looking for the presents in the morning. I think my folks used to put the presents inside of sleeping bags at the end of our bed, and so we'd get up super early and open those up, or want to open those up. I think we're only allowed to open one at a time or something like that.
Yeah.
But part of Christmas is also having to go and spend it with your extended family.
Yeah.
I hated that. So there's something super annoying about Christmas as well. You're
I do remember some of those.
And you knew you were going to be on in the back of the car for most of the day, just traveling between families' houses.
Yeah. Were they all in Auckland?
They were all in Auckland.
Oh,
But
really?
You're going North Shore, South,
Yeah.
East,
And when you're a kid, you're driving anywhere is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I just want to be home, play with my toys.
I know.
What city are we in now? What country are we in now? Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Exactly. What about you, Joey?
I have two really distinct memories. One is I think I must have been 3 or 4 or something, or maybe 4 or 5, and my sister at the time knew that Santa wasn't real. She's 2 years older than me.
Okay.
But it was still alive for me, right? I was still convinced. And my parents put us to bed, and we're upstairs, and it's the stairs going down, and then the banisters on your right, and then you look around the corner, there's the living room with the tree. And then so my sister wakes me up. It's probably maybe 8:30 or 9 at night. No. She wakes me up. She's like, Santa's here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I'm following behind her, and we're just creeping down the stairs slowly just to peek our heads around the corner. And she peeks first, right? And obviously, who does she see? Because we hear the noise. It's Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
And she knows it's Mom and Dad probably before that moment. And but she thought enough to wake me up to say Santa's here. And then so she looks and she says, he's putting the gifts under the tree.
Oh, that's brutal.
We have to go to bed. And I was like, oh, yeah. And then so we went to bed, and I'm just amped. I'm like, oh my gosh. Santa was right there.
You were so close, man.
How old are you then? 12?
No.
Yeah. Oh, that's brutal.
Oh, that was probably your best roast.
Yeah, that was great.
No, I was younger than that. I was 11. But the second memory is in our second house. I think I'm 11 or 12 years old, and I'm still at that age where if you wake up at 6 or 5:30 on Christmas Day, there's no way you're falling back asleep. No. And we had this a really large living room, which was about a floor and a half higher than the ground, and then the house is kind of perched up on a bit of a hill over the neighborhood. And it was a really beautiful house, and it has the window is a massive window that kind of curves a little bit this. Mm-hmm. And it has a bit of a banister, if that's the right term to use, where you can sit on, or a ledge. Yep. And you're not supposed to sit on it.
Like a bay window.
Kind of like a bay window. And so the tree's in front of that big window. And then so I'm up early. I know I can't get anyone up yet. So then I just sit on that bay window, looking outside as the sun is still dark, but it's slowly starting to rise.
And snow?
Snow's falling.
Oh, yeah.
I can feel the cold coming in from the window. I'm looking at the presents oh my gosh, should I just start opening them now? No, I can't. And then it's just that is just fixed in my brain. Yeah. It's
isn't that
a pretty significant memory.
That's so funny.
The whole snow thing, that's the contradiction here for us.
Yeah.
The magic of a kid is all the watching the I used to love the Carol story, Christmas time, But it's all snow and dark and all the rest of it. But here it's light and barbecues, and so there's quite a contradiction in your imagination as a kid.
Yep.
Because that real world, or that world of snow and tints, of cold and lanterns, doesn't exist in your own experience.
It's very different. Even the whole. We can probably talk about this forever, and I'm sure we have it at some point in the podcast. But the whole. Slowly from Advent on, or basically after Christmas, after American Thanksgiving, which we don't celebrate in Canada, on, essentially, snow begins to fall, frost begins to accumulate on the ground, people begin to set up their lights outside, and it's not like in Auckland, maybe 10% of people, I feel now, do anything outside with their lights, 15, 20, somewhere in there. Canada, it's virtually every single house has lights on it. More of a monoculture where I was from.
Yeah.
Right. And when the snow falls on those lights, it's just it's like what do you call it when you have like a sheet over a light? It like dampens the light, but like
like a casing.
But it like kind of like evenly spreads the light around.
Mm-hmm.
And so all these trees have snow on them with
Frosted.
lights underneath.
Yep.
And then it just kind of like just pulses a bit
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
and it's a bit more magical.
Yep.
And it's colder, and it's darker, and because most people are hanging out inside now, it just kind of feels a bit more relational.
Mm-hmm.
And because you have to be with people inside,
Yep.
you don't be with people outside.
True.
And because of that, you're in close proximity to people. So neighbors come over. We go over to the neighbors on Christmas Eve after church for a party, and then kids are downstairs, adults are upstairs, kind of thing. And it's just like it's all these signposts that are very normal for me are not present here at all.
No.
Yeah.
And so even like the type of music, like that British choral Christmas music, is incredibly nostalgic for me and makes so much sense here. Where for my wife, that doesn't really make any sense to her.
Right. Yeah.
Here. It's like, that's not a Christmas album. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the most Christmas thing you could do is listen to choral music.
Yeah.
And and so this year I've intentionally tried to do implement more signposts
Right.
to help me remember, like,
Oh, nice.
to know it's
Yeah.
Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
because the past 5 Christmases have just happened and gone.
Yep.
And I'm like, what did Christmas happen? Yeah.
Coming back to that, what you were saying about the snow, and then and here in New Zealand that it's summery. As a kid, I don't think that bothered me at all. Like, I think I was happy for those worlds to kind of merge, and it didn't. I didn't even notice that like all the adverts having snow and my place not having snow. It makes me think that I think as we grow up, we get better at kind of what they technically call as code switching. We're really good at kind of living in two separate worlds, but we see them as we grow up as two separate worlds, and we're okay to we're like we can pretend it's Christmas, but it's a snowy Christmas, but it's not really a snowy Christmas. For kids, that just completely blends. And I wonder if there's
maybe you're right.
the reason
and
I
that's
say that
maybe
is
what-
because
yeah.
I think that's what happens with our spiritual lives most of the time. Kids, man, when I pray for my kids at night, they have no problem with that. The spiritual world mixes with the material world.
Yeah.
They have no issue with that. But it's as we get older that we have to code switch, that we do our spiritual life on Sundays, and we do our material kind of physical life and work life throughout the week. And we just for kids it's the same thing.
Yeah, so
they live in the same world.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
all those things
true.
can be occupied in the same world, in the same orbit that they inhabit. But for us, we like to keep them separate. Yeah.
Well, I mean, do we like to keep them separate, or we're
we might be
conditioned
conditioned to do
into
it. Yeah.
into a condition?
That's
to it.
right,
I mean,
yeah.
something that I thought about. I mean, I am thinking about it. It came to me in terms of Christmas. We've not really done a lot of rituals,
Yeah.
And I tried when I was younger, but it never really worked.
Yeah.
Tried to read Christmas Story, but didn't. So I'm going to try again this Christmas. I'm going to ask. So I'm going to
got
try.
a new crop of
I'm
kids.
going to try and do.
I'm
I'm going to ask them. I've thought it through. I said, Linda, I think what I'm going to do is there's what they call a little kids book called The Christmas Story. So I'm going to ask them, see if I could light a candle and read The Christmas Story before we open up the prezzies, and just do that as a grand, but you know what, rituals. I didn't grow up with rituals, so they're really hard work for me. Yeah. I just don't. I want to do them, but I just naturally don't do them. Yeah. I have to really work to do them.
Yeah.
Yep. Same with me.
Same with you.
That's a good
Yep.
thing.
So I feel like I think it'd be wrong for me to say, because I think that's a violence against my bringing up, kind of a violent response. But I feel kind of a way I'm a bit sold short, really.
Right.
But I don't know if I really want to say that.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So here, why do you want to do rituals? Like, what about that?
Because the reason I want to do it, because I feel like Christmas, Christ's story sits over here, and I'll go to a Christmas service. It comes the tree and everything. It's just not there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like for me, this is really important, especially for my kids. I want to hand something on. Mm-hmm. So that's what's sitting in that. There. I want to hand the story on.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I want to somehow the mistakes, whatever you call them mistakes, it wasn't there, and I want it to be there without without being kind of,
Forcing them into it.
Yeah. And I think I'm trying to figure out ways in which we could do that.
Yeah. Well, we all have rituals.
Eh?
It's the same thing with like
There are rituals in Christmas.
we all have
I'm saying.
liturgies. Like we all have rituals. We all do
Yeah,
these things.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
to say you don't have rituals is actually a ritualistic stance.
Yeah.
It's like our ritual is actually spontaneity.
Yeah.
What I'm
It's saying,
saying,
it's saying something.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is there's certain
Yeah.
things that happen on Christmas. Growing up, with when we were in Christchurch pastoring a church, there was the Christmas service the night before. I mean, it was all good, but that when things change and move, but sort of something around that just brought us back to the story would be really nice.
Why are rituals difficult for you? Like traditions, Christmas traditions in particular. Like why?
Well, I was brought up like Graham. I think we just never had any rituals around that stuff, other than the presents going out. I think Christmas is just another thing to do in the year.
Yeah.
And again, it's that code switching, because it would be really important in the churches that I was growing up. We'd have a big celebration,
Yeah.
and the same thing still happens now. But outside of that, in our own home, Christmas just wasn't that much of a big deal.
Interesting. But your Christian home.
Yeah,
Just not a
not a big deal.
wow.
In some evangelical circles, they don't celebrate it.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I go, what?
Yeah,
But I that's not been our family.
yeah. We have Jehovah's Witnesses who live close to us, and my kids are friends with their kids. They don't celebrate Christmas or birthdays or anything like that.
Really?
Yeah,
So they just don't celebrate.
they just don't know.
Like, what do you celebrate if you don't celebrate Christmas and birthdays?
Yeah.
Like, what do you actually
Yeah.
celebrate in your life?
Yeah.
Graduation?
I mean, yeah, it's funny. I mean, as you say, we're all celebrating something, and I just thought, I mean, because I've got a Muslim friend as well, and of course they don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
That's just not on their radar.
Yeah.
But it's funny, where the celebrations come in our culture is in the malls. But of course,
Oh, it's very
Christmas
clear.
comes there because they want us to buy stuff.
I know.
Yeah, so it's a really.
But that's very different.
Everyone has a
and very different to Europe. I got this lovely text from Sarah Penwood.
Oh, she's in the
And
UK.
she says,
Yeah.
"Oh, Graham, I didn't take any photos
Hi,
of
Sarah.
the Christmas market in Strasbourg because I didn't want to make you jealous. But we're loving it. We're loving it here. It's fantastic."
We're
Because
loving
I tell
it.
her, I tell her to it, look, the Christmas markets in Europe, there's something magical and enchanting about it. So what is it? It's the smell of cinnamon.
Yeah.
It's the mulled wine. It's all the kind of little curios that they have in the Christmas
Yeah.
market. It's the eating and feasting. It's the music. It's the whole thing. And that's not just sort of a Tinseltown thing. It's the Christmas. It's
Yeah.
full of the Christmas story
Yeah.
No,
of
that's
the
it,
Christ
yeah.
story.
Isn't it? I mean, I could have this wrong, but isn't it funny that most of our Christmas traditions come out of Europe,
Yes.
but they don't even come out of the Middle East,
No.
where the Christmas story would have,
Yeah.
originates from, right?
Well, that's probably because of like the Christian calendar properly wasn't established until like a
exactly.
few hundred years after.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also after that, it was really the Victorians, I
Yep.
think,
Right, okay.
who that period of time really ramped up ritual and discipline
Right.
and symbolism, from what I understand,
Okay.
as a way of
Well, Victorians, but then Europe's not Victorian.
No, it wasn't
Well,
like it's not
yeah,
isolated. Like
true.
all of Europe, but Queen Victoria's kids
Oh, yeah.
were
Well,
all
that's
became the rulers of different
Right,
European
right,
countries.
Right.
You know, it's not. It,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
splinters out from there.
Yeah.
Right. And
So
so,
we actually know what they did in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. The Eastern Church, or in the
Yeah, they have it at a different time of the year, so it's not on December the 25th.
no, they have this longer
Yeah, they do.
Yuletide, isn't
Yep.
it?
Yep.
So they celebrate it for. I mean, that's the sort of 12 days of Christmas, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that. I'm
Oh.
not sure.
well,
So what happens in your church, man? What do you guys do?
yeah. So this is new to me, and I've told both of you already.
Yeah.
But I'll just say it again for the sake of those who are listening. When I first moved here in 2018, my first Christmas was only 3 or 4 months after I moved here. We had this thing called Dressing of the Church on the first
that's
Sunday
right.
of
Yeah,
Advent.
I thought that was quite cool.
Where the Sunday it gets dressed up, and I don't want to like disparage the efforts of the past because that would just be very mean and in bad taste. But when I saw it happening, I was like, man, this can be so much better. Is the thought I had. Not to say that it was bad. It's just to say everything could be better. And so I was like, because it's not really just about Jesus. It's about that sounds horrible. It's not really just about the birth of Jesus. It's about kind of why that is important as a whole context behind it.
Yeah.
And then how does that actually? Why is the birth of Jesus so important? Is because of what happened after.
Right.
You know, but that's kind of is the Christmas fixture. So dressing in the church was this time to kind of tell the nativity scene dramatized in the past, and to physically dress the church up to make it look like it was Christmas over the course of the service. And for some people, it was their favorite service of the year. My sister-in-law, she said that this is her favorite Sunday to go to. And I thought it was just weird the first time I went to it, because I'm like, coming from a North American evangelical context, I'm like, this is just, what is going on? Anyway, I think 2 years ago, I got the chance to run it, and I did it with the different acts of the biblical story, where we go from creation to fall, Israel's story, to Jesus, and then church, and then new beginnings. But I would really major on, obviously, the incarnation bit, and each of the acts would have a Christmas hymn that would somehow encapsulate that particular act, a symbolic moment that was aesthetic, and something else, at least a scripture being read of some portion. So those three in each of the acts repeat 6 times. And I did a video thing for it, and I didn't like it very much, to be honest. I thought it was good, but I thought it could be better. And so this past Christmas, which is this now Christmas, the Sunday before Advent, we did it. And I just went like full tilt, like aesthetic register, body symbolism, like... Sometimes
smells and bells.
I was like,
did you do a bit of smoking too?
I was like, no smoke.
Oh, right, that's next year.
No, that's next year. But the theme was light, right? And I just played on the light like crazy, and it was, in my opinion, it was awesome. Someone listening to this who goes to my church might be like, meh. But I was like, thought it was incredible, because the participatory nature of the service that people had. So, for example, we went from Act 1, which is creation. God said, "Let there be light," and I paralleled that to John 1. I then lit the Christ candles on the altar, symbolically representing that God is here. And then we sang, "Hark the herald angels sing," it's a high moment. And then immediately after that act, boom, like the lights go down, purple lights go up, and it gets really solemn. And because we're in the fall, and I do a little bit of a narration, read a scripture, and then I invite the congregation to come light a candle in remembrance of those who are physically not with them because they live somewhere else, are not with them anymore because they've passed away, or they're in not good relational standing with somebody this Christmas season. Come light a candle, say a prayer. And we have a cluster of like 50 to 60 candles on a table in the middle of the front of stage. So people come up and light a candle.
That's really nice.
And then I just kind of walked away, and I lit 1 candle, 2 candles to kind of be the candles that all the other candles are lit from. And then, but before that, I had unlit the Christ candles, even though I had just lit them, to kind of symbolize we're in a dark moment. And then, so people are lighting the candles. Like, some people are like weeping as they're lighting these candles. Then we had this one guy prayed to do our like kind of pastoral prayer, who had lost his wife a year earlier. So it was like, you layer on story with symbol, and then Christmas, and then all this stuff. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is probably one of the most powerful moments in the service I think I've ever experienced. And we're only 10 minutes in. I'm like, holy crap. And I'm like, what's going on? And then when he's finished praying, and the song is O come Emmanuel, like, and it's one of the saddest songs, but it's like hopefully sad. So it's just played on a whole bunch of different things. And then I took one of the candles from the cluster of candles and then relit the Christ candles from like the tears or whatever of the candles symbolically. And that was just one act, and we went through a whole bunch of other ones, Christmas songs, blah, 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 blah. But that one really encapsulates just like, if I were to speak to what had happened, it would actually have diminished it. The unspokenness of what was going on, everybody knew what was happening. And anyway, and then so the purple lights go down as I'm reading the next bit where, we're into the incarnation moment now. Purple lights go down. And then immediately I said, and then Christ's resurrection changes everything, or something along those lines. And then these massive work floodlights just erupt into the stage. And it's just like jarring, but then you're like, yep, resurrection. and then it was awesome. I was like, man,
that's great.
This is great. It was awesome. It was so cool. And so it really brought in my thinking, at least it felt for me. I was like, yep, Christmas is here. I was like,
so it's interesting with the candles one, because when that was one thing in being in Europe and around Christmas about 8 years ago, was you go into churches and that's what you do, and you light a candle and say a prayer. And Linda and I did that in several places, which you just reminded me of that. And that's the sort of So it's mixed. There's not there's this sort of outside. So there's that sacred secular is not quite so divided.
Yeah.
Which I think, that was very noticeable to me, particularly in Europe. Whereas you come here, it could be any day of the year, apart from the shops trying to sell you something more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess I don't need to get into like societal things, but why here, Jonathan? Here's a question, kind of related. Why do you think us as evangelicals, and even your Anglican, you're Anglicelical, or however you say it. Why do you think we are so prone to innovation and changing things up instead of relying on tradition and ritual? Or like long-standing tradition and ritual? Why do you think is going on within our thinking there? Because I think the classic excuse is, well, if we do the same thing over and over again, it becomes mundane and loses its meaning and significance.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the real reason.
Yeah.
Why is there another reason, you think?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that more. I mean, instantly I kind of probably think that it stems back to where we kind of spring from, which is kind of that Reformation kind of period, where we wanted to get away from all the kind of smells and bells kind of stuff, because it just felt ritualistic, and it exactly felt like it didn't feel authentic for many people anymore. And it was held by the kind of, the authority,
So there was a distance between you and God and the people.
That's right.
People were in the middle.
Yeah, that's right. So the breakaway from that is that we just need to we got back to the Word, we got back to, putting the Bible in the vernacular, all that kind of stuff. And we just, I don't know, there's something in our DNA, the evangelical DNA, that wants to, that finds ritual inauthentic. And
I think I wonder whether something around that is as well is that we, again, I have to use the left-right brain thing.
Right.
That evangelical veers to the left, to the left side of the brain.
Right.
Because
What's the left side of the brain?
It wants purpose. What's the point?
What's the point? Okay.
And if I can't see the point, then it's no point.
Yeah.
But that makes the assumption that actually everything that's purposeful has to be seen.
Yep.
That's not the case.
And
we can't see everything that's important and meaningful and deep and rich.
Yep.
We can't see it. In fact, most of it we don't see it.
Yep. And I think our eschatology kind of plays into this too. I think that at a point, the world got less sacramental for us.
Yes.
And we became more spiritually orientated in the sense of transcendent. And we started saying, well, what's the point of putting on this ritual? Because really we want to speak to the heart of people. The heart, meaning the spiritual heart of people. We want to save that part of them. And the rest of the world, well, that's kind of going to hell in a handbasket.
Yes.
So we don't really need to worry about that. But what that happened is it kind of institutionalized, and we all have institutionalized the spiritual in our midst to the detriment of the physical in our midst. And it misunderstands what we are as human beings, that we are a mixture of the spiritual and the physical. And both those things are important for what it means to be a human being. Mm-hmm. So I think it's in our DNA to move in that kind of way. Also, then you put into that, we're kind of a mixture of, evangelicals can be a mixture of secularism and kind of Christianity. And we are deeply, we love progress. And anything that reeks of the past, anything that reeks of tradition, seems inauthentic to us, and we're always looking forward for the new intervention. To our detriment most of the time, I think.
Yeah, progress is the thing we're chasing.
Yeah, and one of the things is that, I mean, you hear it all the time, and I don't disagree with it, but I disagree in the spirit that it's said, is that we're here to change the world. And for us, that just gets mixed up in our minds with, we're here to progress the world towards something new and fresh and revitalized. But we think that means doing away with the past. And I think that reinvention means coming back to what we have lost. So that's where I would place. Where I'd place us, Joey.
Yeah, because I wonder whether that partly is a sort of, it clothes itself, but underneath, you take the clothes of it, it's a utopianism.
It's definitely a utopianism.
Yeah, it's a utopianism that somehow there's something out there, a better world.
Yeah.
Which is true, Christian hope.
Absolutely.
But the way that we do that.
Yep. Yep.
And that's not to discount, actually, I mean, you could ask the question, well, would you rather live now? Would you rather live 100 years ago? Well, if you just take healthcare, I'd be dead if I
exactly right.
So there is a sense in which modernity and that has pushed us forward. I don't think it would be wrong for us to dismiss that.
No, I think that's right. Yeah.
If I was John Wesley, I wouldn't mind living a long time ago. He lived to be like 90-something.
Yeah. I mean, there is something wonderful about sort of, I mean, I love history, but I kind of thought, it'd be kind of great to live then. It was less complicated, but
no toilet paper.
There are other issues.
I think there's other issues.
Yeah.
I mean that's why you hear it all over YouTube. We're in a meaning crisis. So, but isn't that ironic?
Yes.
Because we have lived the best that we have ever lived.
Yeah.
We have more technology than we've ever had in our lives. We have healthcare up the wazoo.
Yeah.
Yet we don't know what any of it means.
Why
do we want to live longer?
That's an interesting one.
There's a meaning crisis.
There's the meaning crisis.
Yeah.
So the meaning crisis. So you could say that a kind of utopianism fills that. That's kind of where it projects itself. I'm not saying it fills the gap.
Yeah.
But like, if we can get there, if that's it, then that'll be the thing that answers this meaning.
That's right.
That's why. That's the purpose.
Yeah. And I think that then coming back to the Christmas story, I think there's something deeply ironic for our culture in that it gives it a utopian picture. Good news has come. The world is going to be different. There's a new kingdom here, but it brings it right back to a child. It's not technology that lands in our laps. It's a human being and a little child. How do we bring up a child well? How do we give this child life? What kind of world should this child grow up in? Those are the questions. And they're human questions. And they're family questions. And they're relational questions. I think that's a really interesting thought about the Christmas story.
That's a really good thought.
Yeah. What doesn't land in that little basket is a computer chip.
Yeah. Or technology, or a thing that, oh God,
that's not there. And do you know what? It's funny that the census that
New Zealand census.
No, that Herod takes, right?
Yeah.
is a technology. It's a technology of counting people. It's a technology of putting people into boxes. And it's a technology of death in many kind of ways. Let me count these people up so I can see who's working for me. Let me count these people up. And so that I can put them into categories underneath my rule and my reign. And then a little child, a human being, slips in under that technology. In fact, has to go away, has to come out from underneath it to live, and then comes back and changes the whole world.
It's profound, isn't it?
What's your hermeneutic? I'm like, where are you getting that? That's intense.
Yeah, I mean,
how do you read in Scripture? That's intense.
I'm reading Scripture with the...
there are some resonances there to the story of David.
I'm not judging you. I'm just saying. I'm like, that's...
Well, I would just say if it resonates, why is it resonating?
Good.
Why is it resonating?
It's good. Yeah. But when you talked about that story, it reminded me of, the census imposed by was Augustus, isn't it?
Yes, Caesar Augustus.
But that same story, and it's always a story that sort of, but I'm sure it's connected, is the story of David, where he takes a census and God whacks him and says,
100%
you're out of line here. And your kind of thought of...
Here's your typology.
And here's your thought about us controlling the world.
Exactly right.
That human beings are just numbers.
Exactly right.
Numbers.
That's right. And Solomon does the same thing. And he does the same thing, and that's when he starts to lose that wisdom, right?
Yeah.
Because when we start counting people up for what they can do for us, we have become inhuman.
That's a really good thought, actually.
And there's something about the Christmas story that embeds us back into the world. So,
I've been thinking about
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I've been thinking about. I mean, I actually got it. Linda
Did you get a new iPad?
No. I was doing my, time, I get up, I wake up reasonably early,
Yeah.
and I thought, I'm going to get a candle out of the cupboard and light the candle this morning. So I did.
Wow.
Light a candle, and
Yeah.
Now, what was I saying? But I was thinking. I've been thinking a lot about Christmas as light breaking into the world, and then there's that around is also the waiting.
Yeah.
The wait. And what does that mean? The waiting, waiting for God to come into work. Because actually, the Christmas stories are quite violent. If I know historical all bits and pieces, but take the Gospels, it's quite violent.
Yeah, it's not a nice story.
No, it's not a nice story.
It's a bunch of little boys die.
Yeah. Exactly right.
It's quite a violent story.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this, you're like, what?
We
just read through
dress up,
Luke.
oh, it's a lovely little
A lot of
manger, and
people
everything's
die.
beautiful and everything.
true.
But there's a sort of inbreaking.
Yeah.
We're waiting for something.
Yeah.
But that something actually
Yeah.
is quite it's tumultuous.
Yep. Something funny happens in the waiting period, right? When we wait for something, often we start, the things that were really important for us throughout the waiting period start to fall away. So some things fall away and some things come forward for us, and it's often what's a good example? I mean, I'm so bad at examples. Let me just explain it abstractly, and then maybe you guys will have some better examples. So the things that you thought were important, the longer you wait for something, some things become less important, and the thing that you truly long for becomes more and more and more and more important, that you want it more and more and more. So I think there's something about the waiting period that is a stripping back.
That's a good thought.
It's a refinement, a refining time. That's how I think about the waiting period.
That's very church father. That's very church fathers.
Here's an example.
It is actually, because that was something I was listening to this morning, that the silence peels away.
Exactly right.
The mind
Yeah.
is, well, that was sort of the thought.
Yeah,
The mind is place of the sin.
Yep.
Sin works.
Exactly
so the
right.
sense of the silence is the pulling away.
Yep. And you think of it. I mean, think of it through the lens of fasting.
Yeah.
So when you withhold food through a fasting period, the things that you thought were important, like food, the physical things, start to slip back, and you realize that your life is actually more spiritual than you thought it was. So all the things that are important come away, and the most important thing starts to become clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. And I think that's what Advent is supposed to be about for us. Anyway, get back to practical stuff.
Yep. So back to Advent. Does your church do Advent?
Yeah. Well, like the whole candle lighting stuff, it's in our call to worship.
And your church does it because you're Anglican.
Yeah, we do it. It's not a massive big deal. But it's not a big deal.
You know, when I was pastoring, I turned it into a reasonably big deal.
Yeah, okay.
When I say a reasonably big deal,
5 minutes.
No.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd do was, and I'd sort of in October, I'd invite people whoever was interested in being part of a Advent sort of organising. We'd meet sort of late October, have a brainstorm, whiteboard. I didn't have all these bits. I didn't know about liturgy. This is 14 years ago, or more longer, because we did it mid-noughties. I started doing it, and then people, we'd have a theme, and what came out of that. So I just didn't want a Sunday service. So one of the wonderful things that came out of it was like we'd have these four chests. Oh yeah. So a congregation of about a couple of hundred people, and so the idea was the 4 chests would be. You'd put a sort of like a lolly or a bar of chocolate in there, and then a verse of scripture, and you'd plant it at somebody's back door.
Oh wow!
And I'd just move around the church for 4 weeks.
Wow.
That's cool. See, that's a tradition.
Yeah. And I don't think I do it now, but
no,
but it was sort of trying to get the community that we're all trying to think about Christmas, and then obviously the Christmas services, and through those each week of the 4 weeks was a particular theme that we were looking at and trying to read scripture and stuff like that. So I was trying to do that. That was not a natural fit for a Pentecostal church.
No.
Do you know what? When you said that, do you know why I think most Western people kind of scoff or resist tradition?
Yeah.
Because it's not efficient.
Right.
it doesn't. It's not efficient. Because
Well,
people always, when people want to deconstruct or dismantle a tradition, they say, "What's the point?" And it's like, well, if the point, so for example, Graham, in that sending that thing around, it's like, that's not efficient. Like, it's just a bit silly. Yeah, our resources can be spent in better directions. We need more people to come and know Jesus, and why don't you do more evangelism stuff on Christmas instead of that?
So
It's not efficient, Graham.
Oh,
And it's like,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
no, but what is it actually communicating? What is it doing? That's actually bringing life into a community.
That's so true.
Oh, yeah, if you want to measure that, yeah. Why that's stupid.
Yeah.
Wasting your time.
Yeah.
But my mind had been working at a much more
Yeah.
different level
Yeah.
than on another register of thinking, actually, no, it's about the relationships. It's about I have to think about what scripture would I use at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I've got to think about somebody else.
Yeah.
How can I make their day? How would I make their Christmas something, wherever they at? So, obviously thinking, I didn't know as much as I know now about that stuff, but certainly around it, thinking about ecology,
Man, that's
environment,
yeah.
culture.
Yeah, no, it all matters.
Yeah, it really does matter.
And people don't
That's a
realize
good
how
point.
much it matters. It's actually like the soul and the meaning is placed in the tradition. And in the efficiency, you're kind of just, you're seen as like somebody who just helps move something along. Like moving one rock from here to there kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think, if I think of an example, when Queen Elizabeth II died, during, I think, a pretty standard Western funeral for anybody, not just a queen, but anybody would have been, someone dies on a Saturday, and then we try and get the funeral organized for like the Wednesday. And then after the Wednesday happens, it's done. And it's an hour-long service.
Yeah.
Dust your hands off, and that's it. But then for Queen Elizabeth's funeral, it was probably one of the most drawn-out, long things. People could say, well, it's because of who she was and the gravitas and everything. I'm like, yeah, that's fair. That's true. But there's moments, I think, when people are willing to put up with the inefficiency of tradition. They had lines that were tens of kilometers long for her to come and to walk through. And people were willing, for example, David Beckham or somebody, he didn't want to go in the front of the line. He stayed in the line because they had a VIP section as well.
Yeah.
He stayed in the line for like the whole day with just everybody else because he wanted to go through that process.
That's a good point.
And we value it, but we only value it during certain moments and certain times.
Interesting too. You sat in the line because
Good,
what was I thinking there? The funeral of Queen Elizabeth. She wouldn't know. She's dead.
No, she's dead.
So who's it for?
Yeah.
It's for the community.
Yeah, it's for the community.
It's for all.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting thing. A little thought that I've got, a little principle I've thought about in terms of, even if you take that idea that we must not just think about the individual, we have to think about the whole because it affects the culture. It's always affecting the culture. So in a church community, so I remember when a church community where a couple busted up and we walked with that couple. But there was a point I said to them, we have to come to the church community because they have to share this pain.
Whoa.
So we have to, otherwise I injure at not looking after the community. What I'm saying, I'm a pastor. I pastor that community, this community, not just the individual. So what I'm saying there is that you have to think not just about, you have to think about the community. Do you get where I'm going?
No, I get it.
Yeah.
100%.
So because often I think we think about, there's a kind of something that I'm thinking about at the moment. I don't want to say on the podcast, but just we have to think about the community.
You do.
We
Well,
have to think about what we're really saying.
to bring it to Christmas, what's Christmas for? Christ has already come. He's already died. He's already been resurrected. What's Christmas for?
Yeah.
If we use that same logic, Christmas is for the community.
Yeah.
If it's for the community,
Yeah.
then you should not care about efficiency.
That's right.
Because the thing itself, it doesn't make sense if you're seeing it through the lens of efficiency. We're seeing it through the lens of tradition and ritual and getting people, aesthetically, bodily infused into that tradition of the church. of that theology of the church and of even that living expression of the Spirit in the church.
Yeah.
And it's for the community.
And riffing off that, then it puts the rest of the year in the right context.
Mm-hmm.
So you step in many kind of ways. You step out of ordinary time, and you step into this moment of time where when you do step back into the year and your work, it puts it all back into a bigger cycle. That this only makes sense because Christ has come. It's just kind of, I don't know. I was thinking. I think you're right. I was thinking today about how greater meaning about what the world has shrunken, and what the church allows us to do, especially with the church calendar, is it puts it into a cosmic kind of framework.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because what tends to happen, especially in our culture, is that work and efficiency comes forward, and the whole world seems like that we're just here to be efficient beings and to work. But the church is always saying, no, it's not that. That's part of the issue. But what it's about is this relationship with God. So let me put it back into a cosmic kind of framework
absolutely.
for you.
I think it's really
let
good.
Me give your work meaning, but you'll only get that when you see the bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about Christmas for that. Yeah.
Maybe we should say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening for the past...
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry
seasons.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Season's greetings. Feliz Navidad. What else can we say? What else do you have?
Yeah. Should we give our address where they can send presents?
No. No, but we should end it there. Thanks, everyone, and we'll come back at some point in the end of January, early February with some new uploads and a whole
and
list.
some awesome guests that
And
we've
some
got
awesome
in the pipeline.
Absolutely.
I even in our conversations, I'm like, we need to bring this person on and this person on, and I'm like, they will come on because I know them. Yeah, I'm like, there we go. Let's do it. Here we go. Season 4 next year, 2025.
See you, Tyler.
Bye.